Welcome to Spiritual Wisdom Weekly from the Greater Orlando Center for Spiritual Living. Each week, we share practical spiritual insights designed to support your growth, helping you live with more clarity, compassion, and intention. Wherever you're listening from, we're glad you're here. Let's begin.
It was a little crowded for us to try to do this here, so I hope you don't mind. We just bumped right on out to sit in the living room with you. So those of you who have been coming here for years know who this is, and you've already hugged her and you've cried your tears of joy. And for those of you that don't know, this is Reverend Dr. Peggy Hostetler, and she got her doctorate while she and I were co-ministers here, and we got to celebrate that. One of the pictures, and I'm echoey, so a little further. Is that better? A little further away? Okay. And we got to celebrate that here with her. So one of the pictures you might have seen if you saw the newsletter was that ceremony. Reverend Peggy is my very, very good friend. She is my mentor. She has set a bar very high. I'm still working to get the kind of calm and just from the heart, spiritual leadership. So this is a real grace to us that you've come today, and that this is my one. We're going to do this together. She's going to be back 5 more times this year. Three of those I'll be gone, and 2 I will just get to sit out there like you and just kind of, receive. So that's us. We're just going to have a little conversation today and let you listen in.
Before we begin, I would just like to let everyone know what a privilege it is for me to be with you here this morning. When I retired, and we both retired back in 22, there was only one occasion, I think, that I was here and up front, and that was for Reverend Martin's installation. And I walked away from the lectern thinking, I wonder if I will ever speak here again. And so here I am, and such a dream, it's one of those things. I grew up in this church. I first walked in the doors in 1981, taking a class in what is now Hostetler Hall, named for me, on a Saturday, and then moved to Central Florida and started coming here every Sunday in 85. So I have a long history in this building, and it feels like home. And to share it with all of you today is such a privilege. And I hope you'll have as much fun this morning as we're going to have. Okay, so we're going to kind of take turns with this wonderful topic. Yes, first slide, please.
Somebody's running slides.
Can't use the clicker because I don't have it. So
Can you
just bear with us here.
Can you bring up the first slide?
So you ran through them earlier. Our topic this morning is release your potential. And I'd like for us all to take this personally, and also for this center, as this is a time of new beginnings. And so that particular slide I did not come up with. I'll give credit to ChatGPT for it. And it speaks to this idea of breaking the light barrier. That's another good topic for a talk. Next slide, please. Let me tell you, I live in the Ocala National Forest. This is a view I might see across the street, except there's no hill involved. And I drive through the forest getting to Ocala, where I served 20 years as a minister. And there was some point in time east of Ocala and east of Silver Springs where the woods had come right up to the highway, and they chose to clear it, so that there was more of an avenue look coming in from the east on Route 40. But they kept selective trees just to let them grow and not just have it be a lawn beside the road. You can imagine why they would have done that, right? Here was one tree that was left when they first cleared the area. It looked like, can you picture one of those trees? Now everybody's gone from around it. It's been scrawny and tall, reaching for the sun, but it was inhibited in reaching its full potential because of the other trees around it. Now they took the trees away, and next slide, please. Within a few years, it started to look like that. And I saw it happen as I would drive into work every day. that the opportunity for that growth, I mean, it started out as a little acorn. I brought some acorns. I forgot to bring them up here. A little acorn at some point, and all the trees around it had, and the potential for that full tree was in the acorn, wasn't it? And for us to see that and relate to it with ourselves, that there's something within us that Spirit has planted when it created us. You know, each and every one of us is a unique expression of the divine, and we exist because Spirit chooses to express through us. And for us to know that is what we're talking about today. Releasing the potential it's not an acorn that we come from, but it's a deep spiritual understanding that allows us to set the other stuff aside, and we'll talk about some of that, and allow our potential to really come into light.
So when you first told me about this story, and we realized, ooh, that's our story, I really recognized and saw that little scraggly tree sitting out there that had been blocked from its sunlight by all the others that were shading and was competing with all those other roots for water and nutrients. And I thought, that really represents how we sometimes feel when we're letting our limiting beliefs overshadow us. And it might look something like this next slide. We didn't, right? So I have to tell you, we were having so much fun with ChatGPT, and we were together and we made this slide, and I didn't realize until I was looking again last night, ChatGPT can't spell. I'm not smart. I'm not smarty enough. And it thinks that you may not be able to see that from a distance, but it also thinks coffee cups can burn because there's a flickering flame. Right? So do remember whenever you're consulting with the internet that it does make mistakes, some very basic ones. Right? Okay. Oh no. But this is what we do to ourselves too, right? And this is really how it might feel if we've let all these limiting beliefs hang over us. Just yesterday in our spiritual economics class, we were discussing I can't-itis. And this is a term that Eric Butterworth coined in the book that we're using, Spiritual Economics, I can't-itis. But if you think about it, there's a lot of other itises out there to do with limited beliefs, right? We've got I'm not-itis. Look at that. I'm not good enough. I'm not smart enough. I don't deserve, right? So that's I'm not-itis. We have some I'm too, T-O-O, I'm too-itis, right? I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too undereducated, I'm too overeducated, right? All these things were hanging over our heads. And as for the can'ts, oh my goodness, we got obligations and expectations. We've got fear of failure and fear of success and waiting for permission. Oh, some of us really identified with that one. But we wait for a lot of stuff. I'm waiting until. I'll do that when. So we've got a long, long list of limited beliefs. And they're keeping us from experiencing our heart's desires. They may even be keeping us from recognizing we have a heart's desire and that it's ours and it's what we're meant to do. Fortunately, we have some tools and practices here that can help us achieve this. We can break loose from all of these limited beliefs. And the greatest one of those is really our recognition that we can control the atmosphere of thought that's producing the life we're living. We learn that, and then we have all of these ways to amplify that. And the thing is that even if it's only one little change, even if that little tree had gotten one cleared out of its way, it would have helped it, right? And so even the smallest change is in the right direction is beginning the shift. When we recognize that, I don't know what words you guys use. You're like God, you're like spirit, the creative force, the universe, whatever. When we make some room in there to recognize that we're a part of that and it's working for us, the balance is shifting. And sometimes, who knows, maybe we'll even get a cutting crew like the tree did and it'll come clear a bunch of them. That's not always a great time of life, but you'll read a lot of stories out there about people who've had a cutting crew come through, take out all that limitation and help them open up and burst out like that tree did before. So let's see how that looks. Next slide. Nope, we missed one. Oh, there's, I'm sorry, she came up sooner than she was already there. She's breaking free before I asked. Okay, so this is where we land, right? And this looks to me like a person who is ready to experience the sun of growth and potential in her life and make all the nourishment she needs, and she is ready to say yes.
So saying yes is one of the things we need to do. And as we say yes, what are we saying yes to? Yes, the next slide, please. Saying yes to the inner call within us. Now, I know one person that knew at 4 years old she wanted to be a large animal veterinarian. And she has been a wonderful large animal veterinarian all her life. But many of us don't know what we want to do when we grow up, even after we've grown up. And so we might have a career that works for us for a period of time. And I can think of my own experience about that. I was in the computer industry. Life was good. I was well paid, had a great family, beautiful home. But what felt to me, it felt like I was at the end of one of these paddle fans, going in circles when I reached a certain point in my life because I was getting an inner call for ministry. I didn't recognize it right away, and that's the way that inner call can sometimes work. It works like background noise, and it kind of nudges us from time to time, and we can listen to it or push it aside. But this saying yes to the inner call is when we invite it to not be background noise anymore, for it to be a guidance from the divine within us. And then those things just start to fall into place. The call comes, and we may not answer it. It may be like the hero's journey, where we go off somewhere and then bring back the gift. There were several things that happened right about this same time in my life. I was within this teaching, so that was a plus for me. I was thinking in terms of spiritual growth where I had not perhaps before. And I had occasion, I lived in the Fort Lauderdale area, and I came up here to this building in 1981 and took a course for youth leaders in what is now Hostetler Hall. Sat in the front pew here and talked to the minister at that time. And I noticed out in front, there was a sign that said School of Ministry. I forgot that for another few years, but it came back again when we moved to Central Florida. And I began to go to the School of Ministry in the early 90s. So sometimes these inner calls don't come as a large announcement. They might come as a preview of coming attractions, perhaps, in your life. And I invite you to listen to that call. Because here we are again, coming to that understanding that who we are is God in expression, and Spirit has chosen you to be something it's expressing through. However, we have to be in agreement with that. We need to line up with it. We can have success in all kinds of outer ways in our lives, and we can climb that ladder of success, can't we? But then Stephen Covey, in one of his books, talks about how you reach a place, perhaps you've been climbing the ladder of success, and you realized it was leaning against the wrong wall. And for us to get there and to know that we can climb back down that ladder, or perhaps just get some scaffolding and go over to a ladder that's leaning against the right wall, and that awakens us to that innate potential within us, and we get on track with our lives.
Okay, and that's all you got to say on that. So another thing that we have to deal with sometimes as we're taking the ladder, there's a time in almost every class I teach when I give what is sometimes called the wounded healer talk, right? The wounded healer talk is the one that says, all this stuff we just drug up and doing our forgiveness work, all of these different things that we've identified that are our wounds, the things we haven't quite been able to let go of, get the charge off, the things we think of as the negatives that happened in our lives, maybe sometimes even the wrongs we've done to others, all that stuff that we're now maybe feeling how can I ever climb that spiritual ladder with all this dragging along? The Wounded Healer Talk is where you get reminded that all of that is part of who you are. And you can't get rid of it. The object is to integrate it into ourselves, into our idea of ourselves. And that what happens here is that those very things you think of as your traumas and all, when you overcome them, when you use this teaching to shift all of that in your life, when you bust out of those limiting beliefs, you become a magnet to other people who identify with those same things, who see you as this wonderful, shining example and can tell them about your experience and how it changed you. And all of that is by just drawing together, not denying parts of ourselves, not wishing we had been different than we are, but coming into that space of feeling gratitude, another word we talk about a lot, for all that has brought you to where you are now and all that is now open to you as you bring that in. I mainly have this up here because there's somebody that really, really came out as a shining example of this integration of the wounds. And it was actually Peggy that brought her name up first, and we're going to talk about Helen Keller. Helen Keller was not shaped by her circumstances. I'll tell you some more about that. But what's really interesting is that I don't think you knew when you brought up her name that Helen Keller and I share a hometown. I was born maybe a mile from Ivy Green. I could ride my bicycle up there when I was just a young kid. I studied and did all of my research, because we didn't have the internet back then, right? You had to go and look in the encyclopedias when you had a research project, and I did that at the Helen Keller Memorial Library. And every summer, they put on a production of The Miracle Worker at Ivy Green. It's in the back of the house where Helen Keller lived, and they pumped the water at the pump. That one is a depiction from a movie. I think that's probably a little Patty Duke there. So Helen Keller is very near and dear to my heart. Helen was deaf and blind from the age of 19 months old. She was born in 1880, so she contracted a disease in 1882 that left her unable to see or hear. Now, 1882, no screens, no internet, no cochlear implants, no easy way to get in touch with the rest of the world. But Helen refused to let that limit her life. And I hear they picked her typically as kind of an angry kid. Right? You would be too, maybe, right? But she had a lot of energy, and she had a desire that wasn't getting met. And that became very evident in her behavior. Fortunately, or maybe because she was drawing it to herself, her family was in a position to look to the outer world, to travel if needed, to bring in assistance. And so at the age of about 6, Annie Sullivan came into her life. But I truly believe that it was her inner voice that brought her there. Now, what her life reminds us of is that all of the stuff that goes wrong, all the hardship, doesn't have to change your out-picturing. Helen Keller was the first deafblind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree, and she earned it from Radcliffe, cum laude, not cum laude. Radcliffe was the women's college at Harvard. She became a world-renowned author, writing more than a dozen books and hundreds of essays on education, spirituality, social justice, human dignity. She was a tireless advocate for people with disabilities, women's suffrage, labor rights, world peace, and she traveled to over 35 countries as a global ambassador for the American Foundation for the Blind. I have a quote from her. Actually what she wrote, one of Helen's great regrets was that she had not been hearing long enough to be able to speak clearly. She could speak some. She actually, I watched a YouTube on her, and she had apparently, felt until she could sort of form the shapes and make sound that was similar, and I actually heard her talk about this. But this is written by her. A character cannot be developed in ease and quiet. Well, I wish it could. It would be good. Only through experience of trial and suffering can the soul be strengthened, ambition inspired, and success achieved. So if you feel like you've had some trial and suffering in your life, it might be the most wonderful thing that ever happened to you. She's an awesome example of integrating all of you. Pain, wounds, trauma, obstacles, lack of physical abilities, all of it, the works, and yet achieving a potential so high.
Yeah. Next slide, please. After all of that. Okay, so we can take classes. We can integrate our experiences in our life. However, to reach our potential, we've got to take the steps to get there, don't we? There's stairs over there that will get me up to the balcony to where Lorraine is sitting. If I were a flea, that would be an easy jump, right? I could jump over an 8-story building, I understand, by my height in comparison, because they can jump 150 times their height. But we don't get to do that, and nor do we get to do that with our lives. So here we are. One of my mentors, one of our great spiritual leaders of this movement, Kathy Hearn, would say, we vision and we take the next indicated step. So as we want to realize our potential, guess what? We might have to be patient. We might have to take small steps. And there's something good about small steps is that they reinforce themselves as we go, don't they? As this little person is climbing the steps, perhaps when the left foot goes up, they're learning something new and integrating information. And the right step is where they're putting into practice. And the left step goes up and you're taking a class. And the right step goes up and it puts the class into practice. And we reach our potential because we know it's in us. We know it's what Spirit has placed us here to do. Do we really think that we're each here because of a mission to complete in our lives, like the song that Michael Gott sings? I wonder. And maybe it's something small or maybe it's something large, but the gift that comes to us as we're working on reaching our potential is it feels right, doesn't it? It's wonderful to be who we truly are and not try to be somebody else. It's wonderful to know that there is a divine potential forever in our lifetime and probably through eternity, that we get to grow and grow and grow and take whatever steps come next, and we get to enjoy each step along the way. Because as we're working on our spiritual work, isn't life better than it used to be? Ask for a raise of hands, right? Isn't life better than it used to be? And don't you see that as a connection with the work you've been doing spiritually to get where you are now? And for us to put that into practice and encourage ourselves to have that inner urge keep pushing us forward, and yet do it with patience, do it with love, do it with kindness and gentleness when it doesn't quite unfold exactly as we thought it would in the next step along that pathway. And enjoy the ride, I guess, right? So if we were to summarize all of this, Reverend Cindy, what would you say?
I like sunlight, and I love the way that represents potential. And I know you have a slide out here that's going to come up eventually that said, Ernest Holmes said that if you could capture the power of God in form, you would see it as sunlight streaming. And so we've used that imagery here of that idea that we, like anything else, have something to strive for. Our growth, our potential is something we strive to reach, that is light drawing us, the breaking through the light at the beginning that I knew I loved that picture, but I hadn't thought about that as breaking through the light, to the light, breaking till there's no separation. Right. And that's really what this is about, is that what we're all after is that moment of recognizing there is no separation. There is no separation between me and the substance that creates the universe. There is no separation between me and the love that created and powers the universe. There is no separation, and that's that full potential. And when that hits, then nothing is lacking.
Right. And we never become less ourselves as we grow, as we awaken to our potential. We're always becoming more who we truly are. And so even if it feels like we've got to let something go, know that who we truly are has an opportunity to express more fully.
I remember in my early days in Science of Mind, and I'm loving it and all of it, but I had a little fear left. I'm afraid God's going to get me one of these days and take over my life. But it's okay. It worked out.
And nothing to fear in that regard, right? Yeah. But that sounds like something that was an old understanding that needed to fall away.
Yeah.
Because as we become more godlike, we really become more who we really are as God in expression. And for us to know that we don't lose us because each of us is that unique expression and a conscious choice of a unique expression. When we look in the mirror, for us to see that who we're seeing is exactly that which Spirit has chosen to express in our own uniqueness, in our own potentiality, and that the world will be better as we release the potential within us. Because it doesn't just make life better for us, it makes the whole world better, because we're expressing who God wants to be as us in the world at this time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have a nice summary statement.
Yes, we have a couple more slides, one more slide. So this is something that's an invitation.
There's that light.
To let your inner light take form in thought, word, and action.
Yeah.
And an affirmation follows that we would invite you all to share.
Okay, let's read this one together.
I release my potential by expressing my true self right here, right now. Can we do that again? I would love to do that again. Can we do that again? I release my potential by expressing my true self right here, right now. Right now, yeah.
And there's that light.
Yeah. Yeah, the actual quote that Reverend Cindy was alluding to, you'll find in the chapter on mysticism. And Ernest Holmes says, if you could see visually what a treatment is, he believes it would be a pathway of light. Yeah. Somewhere in that mysticism chapter in Science of Mind. So we're going to do a treatment, and Reverend Cindy will begin us. Yes.
So as I just take this moment to allow all that has been said and felt, all that I have seen on faces as I've looked out, and let that lift my consciousness. Let my conscious awareness lie on that which is the light itself, that which is the creator of all, that which has already spoken into each and every heart as we were created to leave its imprint of desire. And I just bask in that. I take off the covers and just allow myself to rest in that light. And in this place, I know that there is no separation between me and that. There is no separation of anyone here, each and every one here, everyone in the sound of my voice now and in times in the future. All of us are one of it, endowed with all of it, led forward by the dreams of its own expression. And everything ever needed for the fullest, most complete and wonderful life is at hand in every moment. And I declare in this moment that all the veils, all the clouds of limiting belief, all that can stand in the way of the recognition and the acceptance and then the magnificent allowance of that to flow through us is taken away. All that limits, all veils of confusion, and we are open and willing and able to simply be those vessels of light, those carriers of this into the world, those standing as examples of what happens when you just let God operate. And I know this so fully and so beautifully, and I am ready to sit with that beautiful image as I listen to Reverend Peggy speak.
How wonderful it is to know that each one of us have come here with something that's us to do, something that's calling us forth from within. How wonderful it is to know that as we answer that call and as we open to the gift that Spirit has to give the world because of us, that we are filled to overflowing with that life that's meaningful. That's life that's filled with love and truth and wisdom and wholeness. That everything in our life comes forth and works wonderfully because we are on that path of divine unfoldment for us as an individual. As we awaken to that, I know that this is the truth about each person here today. That each person that listens to this message, whenever that might be or is online right now, that the truth of each person is God in expression, expressing uniquely in this present moment and calling forth the next greater yet to be. That it is ours already. How wonderful it is to speak my word knowing it's in alignment with truth and knowing that the same power that creates and sustains the whole universe flows through these ideas. I give thanks that this is so. I give thanks that the law works the way that it does, that it takes the things that we believe, the things that we accept, the things that we experience, and opens us to the next unfoldment of that divine ideal of us. I give thanks in this moment that the law is taking the dream and desire of each person's heart here today, and each one in sound of my voice, and working with it as that person invites. Allowing the highest, the best, the largest, the fullest dreams to come true. Nothing is too great for Spirit and the law of mind to accomplish. I give thanks that it's already so, and so it is. Thank you all.
Thank you for spending this time with us on Spiritual Wisdom Weekly from the Greater Orlando Center for Spiritual Living. If this episode supported you in any way, we invite you to stay connected. Listen again, share it with someone you care about, or simply carry what resonated with you into your week. Until next time, take good care and keep growing in spirit.